So I get a lot of comments on my channel every week, and one of the comments I get again and again and again is, I don't know how to use PDFs. So in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly that. I'm going to walk you through some pros and cons, and I'll give you a demonstration as well. The first question to ask ourselves is, do we like paper patterns or do we like PDFs? Because they're not the same. Traditionally, we've always used paper patterns. So now with the emergence with hundreds and hundreds of indie pattern companies, we've got a lot more choice. But the thing is, they're moving over to PDF only. And I predict that in the future, patterns will only be sold by PDF. That might be a long way away, and I'm sure that the big four will always sell their paper patterns, but indie pattern companies are definitely heading towards a PDF only. So it's kind of important that we do learn how to use PDFs. Now, I've been using PDFs for a long time, right since the beginning of my channel, dating back 6 or 7 years. As long ago as I started sewing, I've always used PDFs. I've used paper patterns as well. I've got loads here. Here's just a few of my paper patterns, but to be honest, they don't get used. So what's the point in having them? So the reasons I like PDF patterns is they're instant. So if you see a pattern you want, you can download it straight away, print it out and start working with it. That's fantastic. Compare that to the big four patterns where you see a pattern, you have to order it, it takes 3 or 4 days to arrive. And then you've got to start tracing it. And by then, sometimes the urge is over to do it. So I really do like PDFs. Another aspect that I like about PDFs is once you download the PDF and print it off, if you make an error in your cutting out or whatever you're doing, you can just print it off again. It's so easy. You've got that pattern forever and you can print it off as many times as you want. I've certainly been in the situation where I've messed up a paper pattern and I've had to purchase it again, and it's a big cost. So when you download a PDF pattern, you will get the option for A0 and A4. So they're 2 different files that come, and you would use them in different ways. So an A0 you would send off to a copy shop to be printed out, and an A4 you would print out yourself. Sometimes A4 is called letter size, I think, in America, but here in the UK we refer to it as A4, but it doesn't matter, it's much the same size. I think it's got a very small difference. So out of A4 and A0, my personal preference is A0. You may have heard in my YouTube channel and my videos before that I do like to print off in A0. I do ask a lady called, I can't even remember her name right now, but I'll put her details on screen. And she's got a Facebook page, which I will link down below. She does my printing and she's just an independent person on her own. And her prices are super cheap. I think she charges, or the last time I ordered, which was a little while ago now, she was charging about £1.50 per sheet, which is a lot better than the likes of Net Printer. So in America, you will need to use different people. So I think you've got PDF Plotting in America. There might be 1 or 2 others. You can also go to your local Staples and they will print it out, but I understand that's a very expensive way of doing it. So one big con of using A0 is that it does cost more to print off. So you've paid for your pattern and then you've got to pay for the A0 as well. But you have to pay for A4 as well. It's just a lower cost. Another downside of A0 is that you do have to wait for that to arrive in the post, just as you would a paper pattern. But on the plus side, it's more accurate than doing A4. With A4, there's lots of room for error. But with an A0, it's all printed on one piece of paper, and so there is no error there, unless they make an error in the actual printing size. But a professional shouldn't do that. The A0 is really good if you have no printer, but you want to print off a PDF pattern. It's a really good option for that. So actually you can treat the A0 pattern file as if it was a paper pattern, because that's essentially what it is. But the only difference is you pay a little bit extra for the paper and you get a PDF download, which you get to keep forever. Another great pro of A0 is that you will save time putting the document together. So when you do A4, you would need to stick it together and glue it and stuff, and you don't have to do that with A0. When I use an A0 document, I do usually 99.9% of the time trace it off so that I can preserve that copy, because it obviously costs me money to have it printed. Con of using A4 is that it's less accurate because you're tiling lots and lots of pieces of paper together. There is room for error if you're not completely accurate in it. I've seen it in the past where I've put patterns together and they don't align properly, and that's just partly the printing and partly my putting the thing together. However, using A4 is immediate. You can buy your pattern, download it, print it off, cut your fabric out and get sewing within an hour. There's nothing better than that if you've just seen a pattern that you really want. Another pro is you don't need to trace because you can reprint if you need to, although I wouldn't advise keep reprinting the same pattern for environmental reasons. If you do make a mistake and you do need to reprint, you've got that option there. But the biggest pro for me is the cost attack. In the early days of printing PDF patterns, I spent so much money. I had an inkjet printer and I would get through about £40 worth of ink every month. It was horrendous. In the end, I just felt I can't do this anymore. It's far too expensive. So I was looking into printers and I bought a laser printer, which I've got just in the corner, round the corner there. I think it's a Brother HL11112. It cost me about £40 or £45. I just came across it in my local grocery store and they had a deal on it for £40, so I picked it up. It's a laser printer, which is a really important difference. Inkjet printers will use a lot of ink, but toner printers do not. So I purchased that and I've never looked back again. So I think the ink that came with it lasted me about 9 months, and often you only get a little bit of ink, so I was really impressed with that. You can buy the replacement ink for this printer on Amazon, and the Brother version is like £30 or £40, which is good because it does last me over a year. The last lot lasted me a year and a half, but I'd never ever paid that price for my ink. So the first time I bought ink, I paid £8. The second time, which is a couple of weeks ago, I paid £12. And that ink cartridge lasted me a year and a half. So I was really, really pleased with that. I buy A4 paper. I buy a big box, which is about 5 reams for like £15, and that'll last me about a year, year and a half. So overall, once you dismiss the cost of the actual printer, because that's really paid for itself, all I'm paying for is the ink and the paper. The paper I pay about £18 and the ink £12, so that's like £30, and that lasts me a year to a year and a half. I cannot ask for more than that. So now I'm going to show you a demonstration of how to download your PDF pattern and print it out. So let's head over to that now. Once you've purchased your pattern, you want to go into your account, which on this website you can find at the top just there, and then go to your downloads. And I've got all of mine here. Don't judge, there's lots. So today I want to print off the Laundry Day tee. So you've got 3 options here. You've got projector file, you've got the A0 file for the copy shop, and you've got the print at home. I was going to send off to have it printed. I would download this and then send this file in an email, but I'm going to print at home, so I am going to click this, and now I'm just going to save it to my computer. So now I'm going to save them. So I've got them safe. I'm going to my Asana account. I have got a video about Asana, which I will leave in the description box below. Here's my sewing patterns. I now just have to find that pattern. I think maybe in here. There we are. There we are. There's some files in there already. Upload these new ones. Choose them. Open. And they're just uploading there. So now I have them safe. So now what I need to do is open up my copy. Sometimes you will see this at the bottom of your browser. Do not click on that. because, let me show you, it just opens up a browser page. If you see here, you've got all the sizes and you want to be able to turn some of them off. Now, Love Notions does have layers, but you have to do it in Adobe. So let's do that. What you want to do, if you've already got Adobe installed on your computer, you are fine, the Reader, or Adobe Acrobat it's called. If it's not, you'll need to go to the Adobe website and download it. All you do is find the format you want, double click it, and it should open up in Adobe. This is Adobe. Now what we do is we can scroll down, see everything we need to see. What you need to do first off is decide what size you need. So it's got some information there about what size you need. To pick your size, I would be a 2x and a high bust with a full bust piece. Then my waist would actually be a 4x. But I need to grade between the 2x and the 4x. I have to keep that in mind. So here we're very lucky with Love Notions is they have a print chart with all the options there. So you've got a standard bust there or a full bust. So if you want the full bust pieces, ignore the standard pieces. Also, do you want it as a dress or a shirt or tunic? I'm going to go with a dress because I want the full bust dress. So it's that this corner here is the full bust and the dress. So I need to print off those pages, highlight them and save that somewhere. So that's the actual bodice pieces. Over here, we've got the options. So if you want a short sleeve, this page you need. If you want elbow sleeves, these pages you need. 3/4 length sleeve, these pages. Long sleeve, these pages. And if you want the cowl, these pages. So it literally tells you everything that you need to know. Before we print it, what we do is go over here. And if you double click on here, look at all the sizes. Now we don't need all the sizes, so I don't need 5x, but I do need 2x, and I need to grade to 4x, so I'm going to use 3x as a guide. I don't need extra large, I don't need large, I don't need medium, I don't need small, I don't need extra small. You can't turn the numbers off or the titles, and you've got A4 guides or guidelines. So you see here you've got dashed lines and a solid line. You'll need to butt up your next pattern page against this dotted line. And so this line is kind of irrelevant, I think is the guidelines. So yeah, if you untick that, it takes away that line, and that's just a little bit less confusing. So now I've sorted out my layers, we can close it up again, go back to that printer page. So it says here, after the pattern with 100% no scaling. After printing, check the 1x1 box. So it doesn't tell you where that 1x1 box is. So you kind of have to print all the pages. And what if it's wrong? Oh, there it is, right in front of my eyes, right there on page 44. So what you want to do first off, before you do anything, is print, go to pages and click page 44. And then go here, click actual size, and then press print. And then you have to measure this square to make sure it's exactly 1 inch by 1 inch. If it's not, then you go in here and you mix it up. So say it's a little bit too big, you would click custom scale and maybe do 98% and try again, and just do that over a few percent until you get it right. For me, it usually is always right with the actual size, but it does vary from printer to printer. So now I'm going to plug in my printer and then choose my pages. Because you see it's 104 pages. You absolutely do not want to print 104 pages. You want 16, 26, 28, 29, 52, 3, 58 to 60, 64, 74, 89, 94. So that's 31 pages, and that's printing off now. So it's as easy as that. So I hope you found that interesting. I think layers are a really good thing, especially if you get confused by all the lines. Not all companies do use layers, but they are increasingly using layers. I'm seeing more and more of a demand for layers out there in the comments on the groups. So Love Notions, which is the company that I'm using their pattern today to demonstrate to you, do not have you cutting any sides, which is fantastic. That cannot be said for every company, but for them it is really good. So what I'm going to do now is take you over and show you how I put the pattern together. Now we've printed off our pattern, we're going to stick it together. All I'm going to use is a Pritt stick. You can use sellotape if you like, but I find that a Pritt stick is much better. So what we got to do now is get into the pattern. So you'll see here, you've got the number 16 there. So you've got a number on every page, and that allocates to the page number in the PDF. So that's important to know in case you get stuck or lost. It'll also give you a clue of which pieces go together. So for example, we know 17 goes next to 16, and I'll just put them together like that, and so forth. So you'll see that you've got a dashed line just here, and you'll butt up your other piece of paper which doesn't have any lines. You just overlap it and join it up on that dashed line and glue it. When you come down to here, you do the same but on that thick line there. So let's get into it. The great thing about Love Notions patterns is you don't have to do any cutting. That won't be the case for all companies. If they do require you to cut, they probably want you to cut down here and up once, so on two sides of the paper on all the paper pieces, and then it'll go together, but there's just no need with this pattern. So what I'm going to do is, on the piece of paper that's got the dash line, I'm just going to put some glue there and then match it up using the existing lines that are on the pattern to match it up like that, and that's done. You can see I've matched this line here and also the line at the top. So it's super easy. You can fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. So here's one length, all glued together. It's a bit too long to show you all in one go. So you can see here, really important that it lines up because it is your seam line. So this is the bottom of the piece that I've just done, and I've got my next piece, and you can see that it goes there like that. But what I'm going to do first is do another row of this, then attach it to this. It's just much quicker and easier that way. You can fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. There we go, that's the next one. Now we have to join this bit to the other one that I've just done. So you can see here that I've got the armhole, and on this bit it joins at the bottom of the armhole. These bits of paper go together. Line here is the line that I match up underneath like that, and I just put a bit of glue along there all the way down, and then just match it up like that. So that's one whole piece there. That piece is now ready to be cut out. So I've cut this piece out, so all you got to do is do the exact same for all the other pieces as well, and then you'll have your pattern pieces. Sometimes when you've got a lot of pattern pieces, like here, when you've basically got 4 bits of paper meeting up, it's very easy to get it misaligned. And so it is really important that you're accurate in your gluing in the first instance. But otherwise it's so easy, don't you think? So that's it. So that's all there is to it really. Super, super easy. Once you've done it once, it will be a breeze. Now putting PDFs together is really a love or a hate thing here, because some people love it and find it really like therapeutic, and others get really stressed by it. If you've got no patience whatsoever, then A4 probably isn't for you, and I would go down the A0 route. But if you want to take time to put this pattern together, get to know all your pattern pieces, get to know all the notches, all the style lines, etc., that can help you as you're putting your garment together later on. So if I had to choose between A0 and A4, I would go with A0 for convenience and A4 for cost. It really, you cannot compare the two. And I do use both. I use A0 and A4. Basically, when I can afford to, I'll get A0, and when I can't afford to, I'll put them together myself. So that's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed this video and you did get value from it, do hit that subscribe button. Leave me a comment and let me know whether you like paper patterns or PDFs. And if you like PDFs, do you prefer A4, putting it together yourself, or A0, sending it off to a copy shop? I'd love to know your thoughts. If you'd like to support my channel, I do have a Patreon and a Ko-fi account. All links will be downstairs in the description box. Until next time, happy sewing. Bye for now.
You can fly higher than the sky.